Good evening, Current Affairs listeners. My name is Nathan Robertson. I am the editor of Current Affairs magazine, and I am here with the legendary filmmaker, activist, author, Michael Moore, who needs no introduction, but I will tell people they should all be listening to and subscribe to Rumble with Michael Moore. Hey, nice to see you.
It's great to see you, and I miss having an introduction. People always say that.
Oh, sorry, they say you don't know. Okay, he's the author of how many books? Quite a few.
Yeah, at least 8.
At least 8 books. The Awful Truth, TV Nation,
Yes.
Sicko, Bowling for Columbine, Fahrenheit 9/11, Fahrenheit 11/9, Where to Invade Next. Half a dozen incredible documentary films that changed political documentaries forever. Oscar-winning filmmaker. Oh, I could go on. I could do the intro. If you want the introduction, you can get it.
Eagle Scout.
Eagle Scout. There you go.
NRA Marksman of the Year Award, 1967.
Okay, maybe we won't mention that one, but that's something too.
And if you do the math, you'd have to be asking, why were they letting 11-year-olds shoot guns with no adults around?
Well, this was Michigan, yeah?
Yes, Michigan.
So
yes.
I think that question answers itself.
Right. Thank you. I'm honored to be here, and as I've said publicly and privately, that your magazine is one of the best, if not the best, magazine in this country for the last few years. I love reading it. I love the writing. I love the thinking. It's fresh. It's original. It's daring. And it's, for my take on it, it's spot on in terms of what we need to be talking about. So thank you, Nathan, for really publishing and editing this magazine.
Everyone on the staff really appreciates the support you've given us. The reason I wanted to talk to you, and we're recording this on a Thursday, the United States presidential election is on a Tuesday. Yes. I want to talk to you specifically because I think by the end of the cycle in 2016, you were almost the only person in the country saying that Donald Trump was going to be the president of the United States. That turned out to be true. How are you feeling now?
Yeah, it's a good question because this is not 2016. So,
right.
I think that I don't know. Funny, at the time, I didn't think I was making a prediction. I was just commenting on what I saw in Michigan, and I didn't see much support for Hillary, and she lost the state by 2 votes, an average of 2 votes per precinct. So now I have been virtually around the country every day. I'm in some kind of Zoom. I'm giving a speech somewhere over the internet. I'm on an MSNBC show. I am on somebody's podcast. And I am of 2 minds, and I don't have a gray zone. I think it's going to be one or the other.
Right.
I think it is very possible that Trump is going to be buried in a tsunami of ballots. I think that is actually something that can happen. I also believe that Trump is an evil genius, and I put nothing past him, and I think that he's smarter in this sort of way than all of us in terms of pulling this off again.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. This phrase, you've used this phrase before, evil genius, to describe him, and I agree with that, but I think that probably most people you say that to think you're crazy, because the consensus about Donald Trump is, he's an idiot, he's incompetent, he's just the worst, he's a horrible president, he has no idea what he's doing. And I think I share with you the view that actually it is a real mistaken understanding of Donald Trump to just see him as a buffoon and a clown. He is those things, but that is a particular type of intelligence, and there is another type of intelligence, which is the intelligence of the con man. And that is a kind of smarts that he has.
He and I are members of the same organization. It's called the Screen Actors Guild. He's the only sitting president I believe we've ever had that is still an active union member while he was president. Reagan was the president of the Screen Actors Guild back in the day, but not when he was in the White House. This guy is still a member of our union. So I think, just as you could say that Jim Carrey, he's crazy. Mm-hmm. Some of the craziest people in show business have been some of the smartest people, and some of the most, not in Jim Carrey's case, but I'm thinking of others, some of the most devious, and some of the worst human beings that people have run across. The fact that he had 14 seasons on NBC with that show of his, they're not a charity, so they just don't let anybody on TV. They kept him on because he had an audience of millions and millions and millions of Americans, and millions, 60 to 70 million are going to vote for him this week. That's how many people we share the country with that love Donald Trump. So this is a problem. This is a problem because the enthusiasm level amongst his supporters is amazing. And the enthusiasm level for Joe Biden, no offense to Joe Biden or his supporters.
I think to even talk of an enthusiasm level for Joe Biden is
exactly.
fallacious.
Yes, so exactly. So that's a problem.
Yes.
Why is the Republican in Michigan, running for Senate, John James, why is he almost in a virtual tie with our incumbent Democrat? What does that tell you about Michigan? Maybe not so solid blue. Maybe we should take nothing for granted in these last 4 or 5 days. So that's why I think it's better that we be, all of us, game face on, all of us on our toes, take nothing for granted, and understand that if he did it once, he could do it again.
Yeah, people make fun of Trump every time he brags about his ratings on The Apprentice, but I think it's actually, he has a real skill as an entertainer. And if you watch his long speeches, the guy has energy. You watch him for, 90 minutes, 2 hours.
And he's still standing up straight. Watch him when he goes up the stairs or down the stairs of Air Force One. He's not grabbing it, like I'm going to be grabbing it when I'm 74. He goes right up those stairs and he comes right down those stairs. And it's amazing. There's something, and I can't explain it because I believe that it's true. He does not eat a single vegetable.
He's a miracle of medical science, right?
He's proof that the human body wants to live. No matter what abuse we do to it.
He got COVID. He got COVID and it couldn't hurt him.
3 days later, he ascended the staircase to the balcony.
I think he might be
He took
immortal.
That mask off like a man, like a real man. Took that mask off and then looked around at his fiefdom.
There's something incredible, and it's maddening, but there is something incredible about it because he seems to have more energy than I do. And I watch these speeches, and the other thing is, he is funny, right? He is compelling in a real way. His speeches are not boring. He makes fun of his opponents, and you makes people laugh. And he says things that are often kind of true. He says a lot of bullshit, but he says some things where you go, "Gosh, that's kind of true." And I think we have to understand, what the source of his appeal is. And it's not just that people are crazy. You can't just blame, the idiot voters.
Right.
He's a manipulator.
Yes. But all art is manipulation, right? All acting, a reality show is not a reality show. It's a manipulation. Everything's being manipulated. And with performance and with timing. And he has great timing. It's amazing when he knows how to switch it up. And then he goes off onto he starts talking about semi-trucks for no reason, and then about Biden's sheets and pillowcases. And you're just left gobsmacked and for the next minute or two, he's moved on, but you're still with the pillows and sheets that he's just talked about Biden having. And what does that mean? What's the coded message there? It's that thing, the way he did that the other night with the senator, the U.S. senator. She's a United States senator from Arizona, and made her come up on the stage, and he just, come on, get up here. You get 1 minute. Come on. Like she's a dog.
Yeah.
Just talk to her like she was a dog. And the crowd was going crazy. They loved it, and then he booted her off. It was like, wow. And I think, especially now speaking, I'm in the side of the white man's head because I have a white man's head.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, oh man, they look at him and they go, wow, yeah, that's the way I'd like to do it. Yeah, get up here. Now get out of here. Now get up here. Now get out of here. It's like, yeah, they love that. They love that sense, whatever that is that he has. But don't let me say to the point of timing. That first debate, his timing was way off. I mean, he had to have had COVID then. He had to have been on some kind of drugs or whatever. Mm-hmm. You go back and watch that debate now, and it's so out of whack for his history as an entertainer and a performer. Mm-hmm. He completely blew it. And I think the smart thing for the Biden people would have been, after he refused to show up for debate number 2, just say, that's the end of we're not messing around with this. That's the end of the debates. Don't give him another microphone, because he will get it together at some point. And he did, I think, in that second, or what should have been the third debate.
Yeah, I mean, when in 2016, when I remember watching the debates with people who were saying that Hillary was winning them. And I think it was kind of wishful thinking, because when I watched them, I was like, my God, he's actually scoring some points here that people, like, not intellectually points, but points where I can see people at home, like, cheering him on.
And especially like in Michigan, his rallies in Michigan, he was constantly talking about how he was going to tax those hedge fund guys on Wall Street. He hated Wall Street.
What happened to that?
But he knew it was going to play well, number one, and it would sound believable, because it is believable for him, because he knows that the elites in New York hate him, the uber rich hate him. Yeah. Wall Street hates him, always hated him, and he's always been treated like he came from the trailer park called Queens. And that they're never going to let him into the elite of the elite of the power structure. So when he would say, those hedge fund guys, they're sitting there not paying their taxes. This is what he said, right? They're going to pay more taxes. Oh, the cheers would go up in Michigan and Ohio and all this. But the reason it sounded like he meant it is because somewhere inside he wanted to really stick it. He wanted to really stick it to those guys, and that's why it sounded so believable.
He's got this. He's got this nouveau riche thing. Even though he was born to a millionaire, he got handed millions of dollars. It's crazy. Right. It's so fake. But he's so good at playing it. Like he's excluded from the Millionaires Club, even though he owns the Millionaires Club. And
or the fake gold-plated version of it.
Well, he's got this aspirational image where he's what you would do if you won the lottery, and you could be an asshole to everyone.
That's a good way to put it.
You could order people around. You could gold plate everything. You could drive monster trucks on the White House. Like he had like big trucks in front of the White House at some point.
Yeah. Because he wanted to go out there and honk the horn.
You could eat hamburgers every day, at the White House. He's like the kid's fantasy of a president. And it's just the base instincts that everyone has. And he's like, you two can disregard the rules. Everyone will have to listen to you.
Look, this is why I'm telling you that the other part of me, the part where he doesn't lose in a landslide, the part that says, you know what, he could pull this off. Because it's really only about a few votes now. And it's about who's going to get there in the next few days to vote. And it's about how much has he destroyed the U.S. Postal Service and what other measures has he put in place so that votes don't get counted. He's already said right now, he's said this every day last 3 days, that the counting has to end on Tuesday night, midnight, or maybe if he's generous, midnight Hawaii time. So get the whole United States in. But that's it. He's going to maybe try to get away with that they not count ballots on the 4th or the 5th or the 6th.
Right. Well,
and you could say you don't think he's going to get away with it, but he's gotten away with it. Every time anybody watching or listening to this has uttered the words, "Oh, he's not going to get away with that," that you've just guaranteed he's going to get away with it.
There's an Onion article that says, like, "This will be the end of Donald Trump," says man for the 7th time this year.
Right.
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 Like, it's every single time, because he says, well, who's going to make me? And often it turns out that so much is sort of built on convention and this sort of polite agreements, that when someone just breaks the rules and says, and he did this throughout his business life, where he'd just go bankrupt and he'd go, well, who's going to make me pay my debts? And it turns out that often the answer is, well, nobody, if you're rich enough and shameless enough. I mean, Democrats are complaining about this Coney Barrett thing. And the perspective is, well, we got her on the court. You can complain all you like, but we won. Sucks to you.
Right. Right. And again, white men have a certain fantasy about, if only I could live like that. If only I could be like that. This is why he will again get 2/3 of the white male vote, because they are so enamored with him. It's really kind of amazing to watch and scary, but it's not good to be scared of it. You need to lean into it and do what you've got to do and be ready to fight for our democracy if we need to do that.
I mean, there's this assumption looking at the polls that Joe Biden has to win a fair election, but he doesn't have to win a fair election. He has to win a rigged election. And that's much harder. And I mean, it's not a conspiracy theory. We have the first election I remember in my lifetime was a stolen election. You remember it very well too, which is the 2000 election, which is we've watched an election be stolen in front of our eyes before.
Correct.
And the answer is, to what can you do about it? There's not that much you can do about it once it's done.
When he's telling his supporters that the rigging is happening on the other side, that the Democrats are going to rig the election, what exactly, I've wondered, what does he mean by that? What power do Democrats have where they could, I just look at Trump, you're running the country, you're the one in power. The election's being run, how are the Democrats going to steal this? What's his thinking there? Well, I don't understand it, and I don't understand why people buy it that if Biden does win, how's he going to convince people? Oh no, they stole the election. I think Democrats. I may have this statistic wrong, but it's close. Yeah. Out of the 50 states, Democrats only in 12 states hold all the power, have both houses and the governorship. That's it. That's it. We don't have the Senate. We don't have the White House. We certainly don't have the Supreme Court. Where exactly does our power lie, other than in the fact that the majority of Americans agree with us?
Well,
That's our huge power.
But I mean, to ask, well, where's he getting it from? What's his argument? Well, he doesn't have an argument. Well, the thing he succeeds at so brilliantly is muddying the waters by having it. He'll point at you and say you're rigging the election. You point at him and say he's rigging the election. And even if the facts are all on one side, you've created enough confusion to where people aren't able to figure out what's what. And it's really quite brilliant. And what the Republicans so excel at doing as well is making themselves appear weak and the victims. And the Democrats are crushing us. And, we're in dire straits because the massive Democratic machine is crushing the Republican Party. I'm
glad you brought up you are one of the few, or maybe the only person I've heard publicly admit, because I'm afraid to admit it too, that because there's something weirdly, bizarrely entertaining about Trump and the way that he has segged into Monty Python this week, where he now just takes the stage and he declares, COVID is gone. COVID is it. The single greatest accomplishment of my presidency is the elimination of COVID. And then you hear somebody coughing out I said COVID is gone! And then everybody goes, COVID is gone. Yeah. And it's like, wow. So that's his plan. That's his plan to get rid of COVID. He declares it gone.
Yes.
The more you say it, the more it goes away. Wow.
Well, you know, he was, his family was like enamored of like a new, like Norman Vincent Peale, the power of positive thinking guy.
Right,
like his whole life philosophy is if you say it, it becomes true. And so his entire presidency is making declarations about all of the things he's done. And you're left going, but you didn't do that. But the thing is that we live in a TV era. So it's just, what do you hear? Well, I heard he did it. I heard he did the thing.
Except, you see, but there's again, to your other point about how you have to be aware of when he's being honest. When he's actually telling you, he's lied to you so much that when he's telling you the truth, like, I'm not going to allow any more counting after Tuesday, you don't hear it because so much of it is a lie. But when he's actually telling you the truth, and when he's being honest, and you don't know what to think, it's very confusing to people, because sometimes he will actually be telling them the truth. He isn't going to allow the counting to continue past a certain time, and he has every intention of sticking to that. This has got to be studied. I hope he does donate his body to science at some point, because it has to be studied. I know they kept Einstein's brain. Somebody's got to keep this brain. Please.
Yeah, I agree. I'm fascinated by him, and I think you know. Another example of that, telling the truth in the middle of the terrified. This really scared the shit out of me. This was when, in his speeches, he said, you know, the Antifa guy who was accused of shooting a Trump supporter.
Yes.
Where he said in his speeches, well, I sent the marshals in, and they didn't want to arrest him, so they just killed him, and it's retribution. You got to have retribution. And I'm listening to it, and he just drops it casually, and I'm listening, thinking, wait a second. What about trials? Didn't we have the thing called trials? Didn't we, like, when people accused of crime, did you arrest them and I just went and put a bullet in his head.
He has often admitted to crimes. In this case, admitting that the federal agents were sent in to murder this guy. How about during the Hillary debate in 2016, where she says, you know why he doesn't want to show you his taxes? Because he hasn't paid any taxes. And he right away goes right into the microphone, perfect timing, and he says, that's because I'm smart. Well, that's an admission. What she just said is true. Yeah. That's right. You've gotten away with it because you're smart, because you and your dad figured out a long time ago how to go up to the line of legal, illegal, and you go up and you put your toe across that line into illegal, and then you know how to bring it back really quickly and cover your tracks, so that the prosecutor goes, we really need to charge the Trumps with this. And then somebody in the room goes, yeah, but you know, they played it right on the line. This is going to be a hard one. What if they win? And then they decide time after time during the years not to prosecute him or his father. That takes genius.
Yeah.
Boy, I wish I knew how to, not that I want to break the law, but boy, if I knew how I could, you know, this is my whole high school time was trying to figure out what was I going to do, because I was not going to be drafted and I was not going to kill Vietnamese. So now what do? Do I get arrested and go to jail for that? Or do I go to Canada? And I'm right there on the border there in Michigan. So I'm thinking the whole time, there's got to be a way I can figure out how to go to Canada but stay in Michigan. I don't know quite what that means, but I know that, but that's what Trump would have already figured that out.
Yes.
He would have already figured that out. In his case, his dad just got him the right doctors to keep saying that he had bone spurs, and that was that.
He understands that for him, he thinks purely in terms of consequences. So whether you're doing something illegal is a question of whether they're going to put you in jail for it.
Whether you're going to be caught,
It doesn't matter what the law says. It matters what's going to happen to you. And so he can violate any law he wants and he issues this challenge, which is, stop me. You know, you don't like it? Stop me. And I noticed this during the Republican debates in 2016, where they were always the moderators were going, Mr. Trump, you got to stop interrupting. There's a rule here. And he would keep doing it because he knew they weren't going to cut his mic. So it's not a rule if they're not going to enforce it.
Right. And when they did decide to enforce it, I don't think he once spoke while his mic was cut off during that last debate. Only one time did Biden try, but I think he just forgot that the mic, wasn't going to be on. But with Trump, he was willing to play by the rules in that way in order to hopefully come off looking a little bit better. And he helped him. They say there's the hardcore Trump supporters, and then there's what's called soft support for Trump. He probably hardened some of that soft support after that debate. It's my guess.
You know what? One of the scariest things about him has been to me is that if he tried to boil down his kind of philosophy, his political philosophy, if there is one, there's a kind of raw.
You're being very generous, assuming he's got one.
Yeah. But to the extent that there's something underlying there, it's a kind of social Darwinism, which is like the world is winners and losers, and the winners get to the top. And if you are disabled, if you're sick or you die, that's because you're a loser. And he said, this comes out of that horrifying remark about John McCain, where he's like, well, good soldiers don't get captured. And you're like, but he got tortured. And he's like, well, that shows that he's one of the losers. Because his entire philosophy is you deserve what happens to you. So if you're the strong guy and you get to the top and you tell everyone else to shut up and they do, you won. That makes you better.
Right. Well, it's Darwinistic thinking, and somebody once asked General Patton in World War II, do you have a plan for winning this war? And he said, yes, we kill more of them than they kill of us. And it's really just that. And Trump is always about wanting to beat the competition, have the bigger numbers. My crowd's bigger than your crowd. Non-stop, we've had to listen to this. And it's I think too, somewhere deep down, if I had done a different kind of documentary about him, I would have really gone and found the people that went to the military boarding school with him as a kid. Something happened there. Something really, really happened there. And we're all paying the price for it.
Yeah, although he was like this from, I think his second grade teacher was quoted as saying he was a little shit even then.
You should never say that about a second grader. They're not themselves. They're not real.
Okay, well, Donald Trump was Donald Trump when he was 8.
At 8 years old, he was already a little shit. Oh,
and for the second grade teacher to say that, it was
that's pretty bad.
Well, you mentioned Fahrenheit 11/9 and the fact that, and this was the interesting thing to me watching it, was that you did choose to make a kind of, you made an interesting choice in how you were going to frame it, which is that a lot of it's a movie about Trump, but it's not about Trump. And you spend as much time talking about the Flint water crisis and Obama and AOC as you do about Donald Trump. And what you kind of focused on in the end was the America that made Donald Trump, the sort of the water in which he swims. How did we get this thing? What have we become as a country? And I think if we're trying to understand whether he gets reelected or not, how we eliminate the force, how we make sure we don't have a Trump again, even if we don't elect him, it's important to address that underlying foundation, what he came out of.
Yes. Well, I think that's what has bothered me about Trump from the beginning here, that I want people to please accept that he did not just fall out of the sky. He is a product of this country. He's the end result of 4 decades, at least, of a nation that has allowed the wealthy to call the shots and has taken. I heard this statistic the other day. Since the beginning of Reagan, so that's 40 years ago, the transfer of wealth, the transfer of actual wealth that exists amongst whoever has it. And I don't mean just wealthy people. When I say wealth, I mean, cash, property, etc. There's been a transfer of $47 trillion from the poor and the working class and the middle class to the wealthy elites in these 40 years. 47 million that working people didn't have a chance to have in their pocket or spend or use for the greater good. Mm-hmm. it went to the top of the top. And we are worse off for it. And the fact that we would end up with a failed casino owner as our president, if you were writing the fiction version of this 50 years from now, this is the Charles Foster Kane story you would tell in such an inverted way. But it is just getting rid of Trump isn't going to be enough. It's just the first step. I mean, we have so much work to do. First, to repair an already unequal, what was already an unequal situation, a society that where everyone didn't have a seat at the table. So we have to fix all that. We have to fix what he did to the EPA, to our national federal lands, the forests, the oil and gas licenses that he gave out, all this stuff that we've got to fix. And then we need to fix a piece of our soul, because I think it's been stomped out in some way, and the level of despair that people feel, that this kind of realization we don't want to speak about, how we're not really going to save this planet. It's not really going to happen. It's too late. Wow, I know this pain. I hear it constantly from people, but we have to do all that, and then we have to go back to the business that we were in, starting, I guess, let's say with Roosevelt, of we're calling this a democracy. Let's make it a democracy, because it's never been a democracy, and all the work we have to do along those lines. So, everybody listening to this, I know you're thinking, "Oh, geez, Mike, please, I'm just trying to get to Tuesday." I know. But after Tuesday, right, we all have work to do, and there's no crying in baseball, and there's no I don't know. Listen. There's no. If you were in the French Resistance during World War II, there's no excuses. Right. You can't say I'd love to go blow up that Nazi bridge with you, but I've got couples therapy at 3 p.m. Nobody said that in the French Resistance. Yeah. You've got it. No. Work it out with your wife when the war is over. But for now, get along with her and show up at 3 o'clock so we can blow up the Nazi bridge.
Well, I mean, it is a good point that I always try to remember that, no matter how many obstacles we face, to be in the United States today, I don't want to say we are fortunate because we have such serious globe-threatening problems, but it is true that generations and generations of people before us have fought in conditions that were much more likely to get them killed and tortured than some of us face, right? Not all of us, right? But
we have never had to go through what many of our parents or grandparents or great-grandparents had to go through. If you're white, you've never had to go through what a black person has to go through. If you were born into money, you really don't have an idea. If you were lucky enough as a working class person to go to a nice school, what did you do with that? Did you turn your back on the people that you came from, or did you use that education to help change this world in which they live, in which we all live? I mean, these are profound questions, and most Americans have not had to go through what the rest of the world has had to go through just to get to the next morning.
One of the sad things to me about this pandemic situation, in addition to all the the human suffering, the basic COVID-related human suffering, has been the fact that a pandemic for any reasonable society should be a moment of national coming together to solve a problem, a collective problem. And it seems to me like all of the really horrible aspects of America have been sort of magnified by this, where, Jeff Bezos has twice as much net worth now as he did at the beginning of the pandemic. Someone just told me that they got check in the mail from a bank that if you cash, it's like $1,000 check, and if you cash it, you're locked into a loan with just a giant APR, because banks see, people are desperate. We can lock them into loans for years and years because of the coronavirus pandemic. It's fantastic for business, and just these really horrible, dark parts of the American soul. that you would hope that the pandemic will be the moment where we go, okay. Well, you would hope that someone like Joe Biden would see it as a moment of going, oh, I see the employer-sponsored health insurance system as a disaster when mass unemployment happens. We need a single-payer healthcare program, but instead, that's not what we get.
Well, we don't know that. I'm not going to give up on that. Okay. And I think we're going to elect a few more members of the squad next week.
True.
To Congress, and we've seen that people will now take to the streets. We've been in the most activist year, certainly in my lifetime. So we don't know. Yeah. We don't know. I mean, Biden.
Yeah, I think. Biden, yeah, that's true. That's true.
I would rather play offense with Biden in there than defense with Trump in there.
Yes.
How do you
absolutely.
Nathan? How do you answer this question though? How do you?
Okay.
Because in the left there is this very legitimate discussion taking place about what to do, and there's some people that still will not say that they're going to vote for Biden or whatever.
Oh, I'm voting for Biden.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't want to vote shame anybody. I mean, I understand why some people don't want to do that, but the fact that we already forget about all the policy issues, the fact that we know that so many hundreds of thousands are going to die if Trump is reelected.
Yeah.
That isn't that enough just to put aside everything else.
Yeah.
Every criticism you have of Biden and just go, okay, I'm going to fight that fight later. But right now, my grandmother is dying.
I think, I agree. I mean, I've been encouraging people. I mean, I was so harshly critical of Biden during the primary. I mean,
of course, all of us. Yeah.
And I stand by it all. This is the thing. I don't even necessarily put aside my criticisms of Biden. I'm still just as critical. I think it's important to be clear-eyed in voting for Biden.
Yeah.
But I also tell people, we have to get Biden elected. It's just it's like a precondition. And it's not any kind of denial that he's awful. He's clearly awful, and I want to fight him. And the day after he gets elected, I will go back to being viciously critical of everything Joe Biden says and does.
Right. Well, what's wrong with some of our friends who are adults? Because, I mean, I say to them, look, I don't want to eat broccoli, but I eat it because it's a foundational thing. But it's so I can continue to do my work, continue to live, to be healthy.
Biden's much worse than broccoli. Broccoli tastes good, but
Okay, we can have that show some other day. I'll make the case that broccoli is actually worse than Biden. But let's just go with your belief that how have you parsed this for yourself?
Yeah, I think this is the thing, I think when people hear the case that we got to vote for Biden, they hear you diminishing your criticism of Biden and saying, Biden is actually good, and they hear you're not trying to say, but it sounds like softening Joe Biden and defending his record and defending the Democrats. And I think genuinely people believe, and the other thing is people feel personally insulted by Biden. They feel like he's been so contemptuous of the left, and now he wants me to go and vote for him without me having to do anything, without him having to do anything to earn my support. And they're very disillusioned after Democrats doing this over and over and over.
Right.
I get where they're coming from.
You get it, but what's your but there?
At the same time, right, that the consequences of a Trump presidency are just so bad that we just need to talk about this on Biden's inauguration day.
Right. I think, yes, I encourage people to, right after the inauguration and after we see Trump being removed in handcuffs or one of those, what do they call those suits that they put on somebody when they're taking them away? The white.
Oh, the straight jacket? Get him in a straight jacket?
Yeah, the straight jacket. I want that. Yeah. I want that picture coming out of the way. But after that, don't we all right now, shouldn't we all be planning on getting together, even with a few friends and family members Tuesday night to do maybe one of two things? One, how is Trump responding to this and what do we need to do about it? But two, what are we going to do now in these next 4 years?
Yeah, right.
And how are we going to do it?
Yes.
That's such a critical question.
Yes. Well, yes. Yeah. I think The other argument for voting against Donald, wouldn't it be satisfying to see Donald Trump lose something for the first time in his life? He's so obsessed with winning. Wouldn't it be nice to see him lose? I just think it would be there would be something deeply satisfying and necessary about showing that someone who has all along thought they could get away with everything and anything, not getting away with it. But
when that happens to somebody like him, watch out. Because the response is going to be like a trapped and wounded bear. And, God knows with him what he will call for, what he will do.
Right.
Fortunately, he does not have, like fascist leaders of the past, have strong lieutenants and sub-lieutenants and a mechanism around them that's completely loyal. He does not have that.
Right.
So that may be our saving grace at some point here.
I mean, you talk, in Fahrenheit 11/9 about, you go back to the history of Nazi Germany and part of it, and I think that's really important because especially like people don't understand what it looks like to see an authoritarian take power as it's happening, which is that you don't notice a lot of stuff until it's too late.
Right.
And I think that's absolutely critical, but the reassuring thing, and I think probably you feel too, that over the last 4 years, the one thing that has kind of been not as bad as we might have feared is that there is a certain incompetence. He's not, I fear a more skilled and almost principled fascist more than Donald Trump, even though he's plenty. I don't mean to diminish how terrifying he is.
Yeah. But it's almost like, thank God he doesn't have those other elements.
Yes.
And thank God he doesn't believe in anything. Because at least these fascists, from the Pinochets to the Mussolinis to the Hitlers, they actually believed in something.
Yeah.
As evil as it was, they actually believe. He doesn't believe in anything other than Donald J. Trump. That's his entire belief system. That may work in our favor because when you are gazing at your navel that intently and that much, it's not going to keep you in power, buddy.
Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I know your time is valuable. But maybe we should close on this question of the next 4 years, because let's assuming Biden wins, he's currently ahead in the polls. We're both nervous and trying not to count chickens before they hatch.
Right.
But a big part of the question that people who are reluctant to vote for Biden have is, okay, well, if he gets in, how do we move someone who is going to be, who's pretty clearly going to be an ineffectual president who does not share a lot of our values? What do we do to push him? Have you thought about that at all?
Push him. You mean
in a leftward direction? Push him towards. I mean, you said you haven't given up on
No.
and I mean neither, single payer healthcare and the Green New Deal and these important things.
Well, let me say this. What I think, and I don't know any of this to be fact, but I'll tell you what I think, what I observe. I think he's already been pushing himself. I think he already knows. His conscience knows. His conscience is pushing him. What he did in 1994 with the crime bill, that was wrong, and he knows it. He knows it. He knows that NAFTA was not right. He knows these things, and he's alluded to them. He doesn't quite do anything about it or whatever, but he no longer has the fire in his belly to lock up people like that, or to make it so difficult for the working class to survive in the Midwest. So that's one thing. The second thing is I was absolutely positive he was going to go for Susan Rice for VP, that when having the choice, he was going to go to the right and not the left. And that he would go, and Trump keeps saying how Kamala Harris is the most liberal senator, which is, we can deal with that later. But the fact is that she is probably pretty liberal and pretty, on some things, actually a little bit more to the left of Bernie than Bernie is, which is almost sacrilege to say something like that. But I was shocked that he picked her, because she was certainly, of the ones they were mentioning, she was the most liberal. He decided that, and he knows he's picking this person. He's not just picking a vice president. he's picking potentially the president. And I'm not just saying that because that's what they teach us in the civics lessons. He knows that anybody that age, 78 years old, he's in the final phase of his life. He's even said that he doesn't know if he'll run for a second term. He's going to take this a term.
It'd be pretty unlikely, yeah.
Right. So he knows that means then I'm not just picking a vice president. This person could be the president, and he's picked the most liberal of the 6 or 7 candidates to be the next president of the United States in his mind. That gives me some optimism here in terms of if we push him, if we take to the streets, if we elect especially in 2022, people who are watching this right now and run for office and get elected, and we have more AOCs. He's the kind of, everybody has this grandpa. I hope everybody's got 2 grandpas. I hope one of them is of this mind. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Because you're at 80 years old now, and you're like, you know what, kids, you go ahead with that Medicare for all thing. And look, I'm for universal health care, so that's, I don't call it a different name. Well, Grandpa, what if we call it Medicaid for all? Sure, just call it that. I'm just saying that I hope this doesn't sound disrespectful because I have to say I have met him a couple of times, Biden. Mm-hmm. He is a very respectful person, and he's a decent person. And even though he doesn't dress like it, like the teeth he has are not the teeth of the working class, but if you're there with him for 10 minutes, he came from the working class. You hear it. And you sense it. It's like, maybe you have to be from the working class to have that radar. But I think that's where his gut is somewhere still there. And again, I'd rather be playing offense.
Yeah.
And either take the ball from him or give him the ball, or we all run together and it's more like rugby. But we get down to the goalposts and we get these things that we need, because he was kind of sort of already there with us and just needed a helping hand.
Well, let's hope that's the way it goes. The idea that would be that'd be ideal. Okay, well, at least
you might want to put some music under that last part. Some somewhere over the rainbow. Mike's last words.
We've got a couple days, and then at the very least, all of this will be over after 2 years of election, which will be a relief of its own in some way, no matter what.
Let's hope it's all over. Over. Yeah. So what are you planning to do in these final hours? What's your plan? You can't get another issue out right now. So what do you do?
No. We got to, I'm just churning out articles, churning out tweet. We're about to release a song called "Biden Sucks, Vote Biden" that is about the fact that you think Biden sucks, but you got to vote for him, which I'm excited.
Oh, that's good. Do you have the tune for it already and everything?
Oh yeah, we've got it. It's all recorded. We have a great musician who's
oh, that's great. Oh, that sounds great. Biden. I'm voting for Biden. Biden sucks.
It's Biden sucks, vote Biden. This is what I've been telling people. Biden sucks, vote Biden. It's,
Biden sucks. I'm voting for Biden. Biden sucks. I'm voting for Biden. All right. I love that.
Vote for him.
Yeah, that's great. And are we in your offices now of Current Affairs?
This is Current Affairs headquarters. There's a sign.
Oh, look at this.
Look, there we go.
There it is. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, right. I figured a magazine isn't legitimate until it's got like metal letters on the wall saying
3D letters too.
First thing I bought when I moved in was the 3D letters.
Well, I think this magazine is genius. I encourage everybody to read it, and don't you go away. Don't you stop doing what you're doing, because it helps people like me. So please.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much. It's fun to talk to you as always.
All right, Nathan. Thank you. Be well.